Hey, what's up ladies and gentlemen, it is the one and only Maxi here, and I'm from the likes of the Maxi Toys videos as always. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Sonic Advance 3 for the Game Boy Advance. So last time we have managed to able to accomplish the forms of the Toy Kingdom, along with the forms of obtaining the fourth, well, should I say, damn fourth Chaos Emerald. And also same applies to the forms of taking on the forms of probably one of my least favorite boss fights in the game, which appears to be the Egg Cube boss fight, but we got there in a somewhat of a quicker time. Well, it can be still dragged on at points. So anyway, today for this episode is the fact that we hit on to the fifth zone in this game, which appears to be Twinkle Snow. And once again, it's going to be a snowy themed zone, just like the forms of Ice Mountain Zone from Sonic Advance 1, and Ice Paradise from the likes of Sonic Advance 2. So even though this is the third time they're going to be able to explore onto the icy themed world, well, at least on the Game Boy Advance era of Sonic series, as far as I'm aware. So as you can see on screen, I managed to able to switch the actual team combinations into Tails and Amy. Now as you can see on the top left corner, that we've now finally able to actually saw the fly icon type. And because of that though, if you're trying to use Tails along with Amy as your partner companion, keep this in mind is the fact that as you can tell, that we're actually going on to Sonic Advance 1 style Amy gameplay style, meaning about the fact that you can't able to jump on enemies and just destroy them when you're able to turn to a ball form, because you're obviously able to actually just go ahead and trying to jump as normal, you know, as you can see, just like in Sonic Advance 1 from Amy's gameplay style. And also, when you're trying to fly with Tails, as you can see, that he can able to actually have the ability to attack in mid-air, or to be more specifically, he can now able to attack while he was flying or in mid-air, which I will say, it does look pretty useful, all things considered, especially noticeable if you're able to try to take down those flying type looking enemies and all that stuff though, which it's pretty useful, all things considered. And luckily you can still able to actually just to perform a spin dash on the ground, so at least you're able to actually just to deal with a lot more enemies if you're able to try to do like, you know, spin dashes on the ground. So at least you're still able to got that. So there's not much else we can able to actually say about that combination, honestly, even though it's actually really good combination. So but the only thing you need to keep that in mind though is the fact that obviously with the jumping with, well, assuming if you ever play as either Knuckles or Sonic or Tails as the leader, and then your partner companion will be Amy, basically you always have to refer to the Sonic Advance 1 style Amy until you're able to realize about that specific jump. So but you know, you get the idea of how that goes. So, and obviously we're now onto the halfway point in Sonic Advance 3 so far. So because of that though, we only got about 3 zones to go. And yeah, we're actually getting quite close towards the end of Sonic Advance 3. Even though it might be still a little bit more lengthy or longer compared to the forms of Advance 1 and Advance 2. Which is pretty obvious because it's almost more accurately a ginormous adventure we have to deal with. And how the hell did I manage to survive for that? Spikes there. Okay, that's a bit odd, but okay, I'll take it. Anyway though, yeah, today's day is of course the 20th of April today, in this case in 2021, and it looks like we only got about 11 days to go until specifically, whenever we get on to next month, which appears to be May. And, things might getting a bit positive at this point, but either way though, well, we're not gonna talk about any negativity for this point right now, just because, well, aside from the fact that, well, I will say this right now, is the fact that I will say that Twinkle Snow as a zone itself is actually not that bad for one if I managed to able to play this zone in particular. But then again, we'll talk more about that whenever we get towards the end of this zone. So, as you can see, I've managed to able to switch the teams up a little bit, thanks to the forms of the powerful skills of editing I have to deal with. And that, as you can see, I've now managed to play as Knuckles, and my partner is still Amy. So in this case, we can able to show off some of these combinations with certain characters and all that stuff. I will try my best to able to actually show all of them, but even though some of them might be actually be kind of tricky to able to show every single character combinations as far as I'm aware. Like, to be more specifically, we only got about one more character left, but we're not gonna get that last character until the next zone. So because of that though, yeah, that's something worth noting about, so... Anyway, when you play as Knuckles, when you team up with Amy, as you can see, again, we're referring to the Sonic Advance 1 style Amy in terms of the jump and stuff like that. But what Knuckles can do is that it's actually kind of interesting because even then, we'll point it out whenever we're able to actually come across into a specific wall that we can climb onto. And also that, yeah, he can able to use the hammer as well. So because of that though, yeah, you probably get the idea about the forms of what the actual movesets from if you're trying to able to play as, well, any character while you're trying to partner up with Amy Rose as far as I'm aware. So, but you know, you get the idea of how that goes. And of course, much like in Ice Mountain Zone from the likes of Sonic Advance 1, there's going to be a lot of underwater involved. But thankfully, well, until when it gets to the point until this act in particular, Act 2, that I believe when we get towards the end of that specific act, that we're going to have to spend most of our time in underwater, which even then, that might be sounds a little bit more obvious for that standard stuff, but either way though, we'll put it out whenever we get into the later portions throughout. So, as you can see, Knuckles able to perform a wall spin dash, which, if you try to hang on to the wall, or try to climb on the wall, basically, if you're trying to able to mash the A button, and then you weren't able to actually just to do a wall spin dash, which I will say, it does look pretty satisfying if you manage to try to do that, which has never been happened in any other Sonic game before that. So, at least even then though, I kinda wish that that moveset will make a comeback. Well, assuming if you're able to bring back Knuckles as a gameplay character, well, at least to be more specifically until when it gets to the future, so... But I digress. And also to top it off, we only got about 10 more days to go until the new Pokemon Snap game for the Nintendo Switch will be releasing soon. So even then, expecting to be hype, myself included. So even then, that's to be expected by that point. So... Okay, something worth noting for is the fact that, you notice about the fact that, yes, much like in Sonic Advance 1, and same applies to Sonic Advance 2, even though despite the fact that Sonic Advance 2 might be a bit lacking when it comes to water sections in that game, because it only contains one water segment, and that was on the very first level in the game, which is of course Leaf Forest Act 1, and that's about it. So, yeah, it does feel a little bit more lacking with water elements to it. But at least in this game, alongside with Sonic Advance 1, that if you play as Knuckles in any of the water sections on any level, basically Knuckles, well, if you notice already, ever since in, well, let's just say in the third part of my Let's Play of this, in the Ocean Base Zone, they do realize is the fact that Knuckles can able to actually have the ability to swim. So in this case, he can able to actually swim on the surface, and then basically, you can also swim underwater too. And Tails can able to do a dog paddle swimming, just like in the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 3, and Knuckles, whenever he just managed able to swim that. So, at least there's nothing else different from there. So, of course, I'm gonna have to grab these air bubbles before I'm able to drown. So, because of that, though, hopefully I won't be able to actually just to die instantly while drowning. So, but it can be felt a bit quite lengthy on this section though, but either way though, you just got to watch out for those enemies, so just in case it doesn't give you a massive knockback. But either way though, actually to be fair though, I already mentioned this before already, that I don't honestly think that Twinkle Snow is not that much of an unfair zone throughout, luckily. So at least I can able to expect the actual appreciation about with the actual fairness. So, although it does contain bottomless pits every now and then, but it's actually a little bit less common as far as I'm aware. Although, aside if you're able to try to memorize the actual level design like this. So, thankfully there's no instant death crushing blocks, thankfully, and especially noticeable like, although there were a few cheap enemy placements here and there sometimes, so either way though, I honestly think that this is the more of a harmless zone in the game sometimes, so as long as you weren't able to memorize everything, so especially noticeable if you try to find every single child throughout, so... Now, as you can see, we return back into Amy Rose as the leader when it comes to this specific team. And as you can see, I've got myself Tails as my partner. When Amy's been paired up with Tails, basically that she able to actually go back into the forms of the actual, well, I would say by the forms of some sort of like a Sonic Advance 1 style Amy. but obviously the biggest difference is there is that you can able to actually just well, if you try to able to actually just do some sort of like a when you jump in midair and press the jump button again, basically Amy Rose managed to able to use her balloons to able to glide for safety, and it might be pretty okay enough when it comes to that specific combination, but it might actually be very similar to another combination thing, which we'll get to that at some point in the future. But either way though, or I'll mention more about that once we get into the forms of the later zones. So, or to be more specifically, the last 2 zones in the game, which is specifically the 6th zone until this Thursday, and then the final zone until specifically next week. So, and I'm quite surprised that we're expecting to believe that we're pretty much almost done with this particular Let's Play itself. So because of that though, I'm expecting to be hyped. Because even then though, once we're done with this particular game, then we've pretty much done the rest of this Sonic Advance games for sure. Like the entire trilogy, as a matter of fact. I know you guys are probably thinking that, isn't there another Sonic game on the Game Boy Advance you're missing out on? Well, there is only 2 I can think of, which is Sonic Battle, and as well as Sonic Pinball Party. But the worst one out of them all though is Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis, because, oh man, that port of the game sucks. Literally sucks. There's no way I'm not gonna able to do that game. So because of that though, I refuse to able to do Sonic the Hedgehog Genesis for the Game Boy Advance, because that game sucks. But I digress. So, yeah, you probably get the idea about the forms of how the fact that how Twinkle Snow actually plays out. Even though, surprisingly enough, or unsurprisingly enough, there aren't any, ice physics to be found around here, which, unlike any forms of, well, sometimes Ice Mountain in Sonic Advance 1, and also say applies to the forms of Ice Paradise in Sonic Advance 2, that I don't think I actually come across into some slippery sections here and there, which is kind of bizarre if you ask me. So, anyway, so that pretty much concludes Act 3, and as you can see, I've managed to do a powerful editing skills such as myself again, and this time around, I managed to switch the different combination between Sonic and Amy. But again, if you manage to pair it up with Amy, at least depending on what characters you play as, like specifically as you can see for Sonic, that's obviously we're referring to Sonic Advance 1 style Amy when it comes to the forms of the actual jumps and stuff. So, yeah, that's something's worth classifying for saying for this point. So, anyways, let's take on the forms of the 5th special stage in the game, and of course, the color for this emerald is gray, or silver to be more specifically. So, but again, it gets a bit aggressively harder as you progress, specifically when we get towards the end of the game. So, yeah, we'll talk more about that until whenever we're able to get into next week or something. And oh boy, I'm not looking forward until when we get to the final special stage, because that was the one special stage I always have trouble with it. So because of that though, yeah, wish me luck on this. So, to be honest, as far as I can say in terms of the forms of this discussion for this point today, folks, even though there's not much else to say about this for the most part, even though I did manage to able to actually, I'm pretty sure that Sonic has already managed to say things like this ever since in the Rayman Raving Rabbit's TV party recently. That was at the very beginning of his Let's Play a bit, and basically he mentions about the fact that, well, luckily we still managed to go ourselves Super Mario Bros. 35. Like, I can able to actually still re-download that after, like, day 1 or something like that. But, unfortunately, though, we can no longer play online in the forms of, you know, Super Mario Bros. 35, just because the service has been ended, so... And, also to top it off, is the fact that, I'm pretty sure that Sonic has already mentioned about this already, is the fact that, yes, well, we did double-check on the eShop app on the Nintendo Switch, once we able to search on, well, let's just say specifically Super Mario Bros. 35, and as well as the forms of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, those 2 games are no longer present in the eShop, so, yeah, it's kind of sad, honestly, which I think we already know about that already, so, but at least we still managed to get ourselves the physical form of Super Mario 3D All-Stars, luckily, so at least we can still able to play that, and as well as you can able to get the game secondhand, well, as long as it doesn't go completely out of stock or disappeared every once in a while. So there we go, folks, that's the 5th Chaos Emeralds that we've actually got, and now we're going to be taking on the forms of the next boss fight, so, I wonder what the next fight should be, but even then though, we'll point it out whenever we get into it. Oh, and by the way, every time you use the attack action, if depending on what characters you'd be using as the leader, and then basically if you use the attack action with Amy, it does this really good double jump ability, which you can able to actually reach higher places, which I think you can definitely recommend Amy as your partner companion if you manage to try to use the attack action properly. So yeah, that's something worth noting for, so. Anyways, trying to take on new forms of Dr. Eggman in Twinkle Snow, and I think this boss's name is Egg Chaser. And because of this though, this is by far one of the hardest boss fights in the game actually. Like, for instance, if you manage to get knocked back by new forms of, if you get hit by that spiky ball of chain, it knocks you to the pit, you will die. And then because of this though, since the actual screen is constantly moving from vertical position, this meaning about the fact that once you try to reach higher up, this is going to be all bottomless pit heavy. And because of this though, in order to deal the damage on Eggman, you're going to have to utilize with those platforms as you can see. Now you guys are probably expecting to be thinking that, well, those platforms might be able to actually crumble as soon as you stand on them. Well, here's the actual tip for this boss fight. All you have to do is basically you have to use those platforms to deal damage on Eggman, or in this case Egg Chaser. And because of that though, every time you jump off the platform, basically that the platform will drop. And thankfully, if you stand on the actual platforms for too long, it doesn't seem to able to actually just to go completely full off if you stand on them. Unless if you specifically trying to jump off the platform. So yeah, that'll be the pro tip for this boss fight, and yeah, I actually do like that specific challenge boss fight. Easily the hardest boss fight in the game, but either way though, that's something worth noting for. So, in fact, kind of think about it, this boss does remind me of a similar boss fight from the likes of Sonic Lost World on the Wii U, whenever you're trying to face off against with Zavok, the final form, when he's actually in giant form. Yeah, that boss fight reminds me of that, so there goes Eggman. Yeah, we only know the drill. Anyway though, and that pretty much concludes Twinkle Snow. Again, not that difficult of the world, even then though, it's actually pretty fair to me though. So because of that though, I think this is easily without doubt one of my favorite zones in the game actually. Even though despite the fact that there's going to be bottomless pits every once in a while, and cheap enemy placements every once in a while. So yeah, I do enjoy that zone for quite a bit. But you know, you get the idea. And oh boy, we come to the second last zone in the game. Oh boy. Okay, so we're gonna have to talk about that until on Thursday. So join me next time on Let's Play Sonic Advance 3. It's that we hit on to the 6th zone in this game, Cybertrack, my least favorite zone in the entire game. So I'll see you guys on Thursday. Later, fellas.